It is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, that's right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. You can pick up an agenda as you walk in on the right. Okay, Katie, could I have roll call for attendance, please?
Yes. Councilmember Bentley.
Here.
Bruns.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Morsey.
Here.
Soha.
Present.
Stuchel.
Here.
Wolfram.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Valley.
Here.
All present.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, we will move on to approval of the agenda. One change requested that we move new business, letter D, capital improvement plan, up to letter A, and then shift everything else down to accommodate staff concerns. And that is all I have. Anything else from council or staff? Okay, do I have a motion for that amendment?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey to put new business letter D to A and move everything else down. Seconded by Councilman Soham. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Any other amendments? Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Flynn to approve the amended agenda. Any further discussion? Councilman Soham?
Just with the, I found a typo, I think it was on page 173, trying to get back down there too. Where the fire truck, there was a 3,000, 100,000 instead of 300,000, it had 3000,000.
Okay. Page 172.
Is it a $3 million truck? Is, I guess, give me a second.
Comma's in the wrong place.
Or there was an extra.
Or there's an extra zero. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
page 172, under motor equipment. The cost will be 3000,000, and purchased in the 2023-2024 budget.
Okay, we will
Sure,
have,
it's 300,000.
okay, it's 300,000, so we will have, is that Alan's document? We will.
That was the year thing I was talking.
Okay, thank you. So one correction to be made there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other changes to the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll move on to public comments on agenda items. Please limit your comments only to things that appear directly on the agenda. You have 3 minutes. The podium is open.
I just want to say, if it wasn't for Camp Hope, I wouldn't be here. I would have passed away a long time ago without their help. And I hate to see it be closed, because they've helped a lot of people, including myself, which I finally got residence after being there for 2 years. I think the city should really think about what they're doing about trying to close her down, because without Missy, there's a lot more homelessness going to be happening. Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name?
Rebecca?
Thank you, Rebecca.
Scott Sessions, 102 Cold Springs Circle. I am against the appointment of Douglas Dubrosi, as he stated in an article in the Hillsdale Collegian dated February 12, 2025, that he disagrees with the Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy that when fluoride is added to the drinking water can prevent tooth decay and provide other benefits as published by the Hillsdale Collegian. He also disagrees with the Centers of Disease Control Prevention, which calls water fluoridation one of the most important health accomplishments of the 20th century. We need fluoride in the drinking water to help prevent tooth decay and also allowing other benefits from fluoride as published by the Hillsdale Collegiate. I disagree with Mayor Pro Tem Palladino about fluoride being taken out of the drinking water. According to the American Medical Association, or the AMA policy of 2021 water fluoridation H-440.972, our American Medical Association urges state health departments to consider the value of requiring statewide fluoridation. Also, in the National Toxicology Program, or the NTP, by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services findings as of August 21st, 2024, said it is important to note that there were insufficient data to determine if low levels of 0.07 milligrams per liter currently recommended by the U.S. Community Water Supplies has a negative effect on children's IQ. The level in the drinking water is annually around 0.05 milligrams per liter stated in the Hillsdale Collegiate, which is lower than the 0.7 milligrams per liter currently recommended for U.S. community water supplies. Going forward, I can see where taking fluoride out of the water would be a big disaster for future generations in Hillsdale, as the protection from fluoride to help with tooth decay in the city of Hillsdale would be gone from the drinking water. Going back to the appointment, I do question what the application it is asked why you would be interested in serving on a committee. And Douglas Dubrozy responded was, I was asked to consider it. With that stated, I do question the motivation behind the appointment. I see the motivation here to remove fluoride from the drinking water, which I would consider to be hurting the residents of Hillsdale and not helping them. For the reasons I have mentioned, I ask that the Mayor Pro Tem and the Hillsdale City Council vote against Douglas Dubrozy appointment to the BPU board, as we need fluoride in the city water. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Mark Nichols, Adams Township. I know a little bit about zoning, having been the supervisor in Adams, having been the zoning administrator. Zoning is a newer thing, in a sense. It is 100 years old or so, but it's come on strong in the last probably 50 years, particularly in these areas. I don't know when Hillsdale first adopted zoning. That's one of the aspects that you're addressing Camp Hope with. Zoning is something that you can control at the local level, so you can change your ordinance. Building codes might be a little difficult. Maybe you could lobby the state. I guess I'd like to ask, has this Camp Hope hurt or helped? I mean, it's fairly non-visible, and I think that it has helped people. And I know that when the city started cracking down, we started having a problem in Adams Township with people moving out there. And you've probably dealt with things in a better way than what Adams Township has. I don't know what the real answer is. I think it's up to personal compassion, like Missy has represented, and churches. I don't know that it's government's problem to try to fix homelessness so much, but somehow we need to have compassion on people. And I do appreciate Mr. Sofa earlier saying, can we wait until spring? So at least if something is done, that the people aren't thrown out in the middle of the winter. So I wish you well as you grapple with this, and I hope you make the right decision.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Thank you. I'll close the podium. And we will move on to the consent agenda. We have approval of bills, city and DPU claims of April 17th, payroll of April 24th, city council minutes of April 21st, finance minutes of April 21st, council budget work session minutes of April 24th, Hillsdale College commencement agreement, quarter 3 financial report, quarterly revenue, and expenditure report. Any questions, comments, concerns with the consent agenda?
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion on the floor to accept the consent agenda from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Morrissey. Any further discussion? Katie, may I have a roll call vote?
Yes, Councilmember Bruns,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley.
Yes.
8-0, it's approved.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to communications and petitions. Letter A, we have a memorial celebration for Carol Lackey. That will be May 31st, 2025 at Oak Grove Cemetery at 11 a.m. There will be a tree dedication. She was involved with the Shade Tree Commission or Cemetery Board. And there will be also a look back at 2 of her favorite early Hillsdale families and a reflection of her remarkable contributions to our community. That is May 31st at 11 a.m. at Oak Grove Cemetery. Any comments? Anything to add from council or staff? Okay, thank you. We will move on to letter B, Summer 2025 City Newsletter. I think the main things to note here are the holiday closure, which is relatively new. Thursday, June 19th, the city will be closed for Juneteenth. That includes Dial-A-Ride, the library, DPU offices, City Hall. There will be a mayoral election Tuesday, August 5th. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Candidates are Matthew Bentley, Kathy Kellerman, Scott Sessions, and Robert Soha. The 2 top candidates will move on to the November general election. Let's see, what was the other thing I was gonna, SAB installments are due by August 31st. And for the upcoming Monroe Street property, the entire special assessment can be paid by August 31st, 2025 to avoid interest and future installments. And then the Monroe Street project is going to begin in early May, today. What's the time frame for picking up bricks? Did they say a week or 2? Got your patio project coming up, this is your chance.
Yes, what we're asking for is residents to contact our office, we'll put you on the list. As soon as we get the schedule from Reith Riley, a couple days ahead, we will reach out to the individuals to get the brick from our facility out at 149 Waterworks.
Okay, so they should reach out to you?
Yes, directly.
If you want Monroe Street bricks, reach out to Jason Blake at DPS. Thank you very much. Okay, yes, Councilman Bentley?
Yes, excuse me, I have a question about the history of Juneteenth. Is that city council's decision sometime in the last few years?
It's a federal holiday now, and I think we just adopt federal holidays. I'm not sure if do we have to do that?
You wouldn't have to, but it's, for those holidays, there's some discretion there, but council did, yes.
Was that 2024?
I believe so, and I know the county does it as well.
So this council voted on it in 2024?
I believe that's right, yeah.
Yes, it would have been part of the union contracts as well.
Yeah, that kind of a separate issue though.
I suspect there are separate, yes, but there's 4 union contracts, and they all requested it because of the federal holiday, and council approved them, and then the non-union as well.
Okay, thank you. It's a little late in the season to second guess it now, but I think maybe we should revisit that sometime after this year.
At the time, I said we should do Constitution Day in September. go our own way as Hillsdale, I'd still be open to it. We're probably not gonna get away with just taking away a holiday from our employees though, once the federal government has granted it. But a different one, possibly. Okay, there's also summer community events, the foodie walk, the fly-in, all those sorts of things. So check that out. Anything else from council or staff on the summer 2025 city newsletter? Okay, we will move on to letter C, and I believe Rebecca is here. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I know that Laura wanted to be here as well, but her daughter is recital tonight, so.
Oh, okay. Laura is our new president
Yeah,
as of last month of the library board.
yeah, so I was just gonna start with the annual report. We do unfortunately have a weird annual report coverage, so this actually goes back to the beginning of July 1st of 2023 to June 2024. We actually are considering changing that. But anyways, I did want to briefly just talk about what Josh just mentioned. So our board did recently change. So our new board president is now Laura Negus. Our new vice president is George Allen, who was formerly the president, and now Josh is now our secretary. He was formerly the vice president. We also do have an opening. Our I don't want to say our longest trustee, but she's been here for a while, Karen Hill. She stepped away. She moved, so we do have a vacant position. So that is technically, I updated that in our annual report, but just wanted to let you guys know. The first thing that I wanted to mention that I can recall from last year is you guys had asked, one of you had asked how we go about expired cards and getting them to come back and reactivate their card. Since then, I have actually figured out how to be a little bit annoying and send an email to prompt people to come back. We get a lot of phone calls of people saying either we've moved out or we're coming back in tomorrow. So that has been really helpful to kind of be prompted into doing that, so thanks for that last year. But the thing that I wanted to mention is because this data goes back so far, it feels a little weird to report on it. So for example, like I've been in this position for around a year and a half, and this only just started covering my existence working here. So, but anyway, excuse me, but anyways, the next thing that I wanted to point out is that we have a little over 1,000 active patrons, and in the span of a year, they all together interacted, checked things out, circulation-wise, interacted with the library 7,000 times. So over the course of 12 months, and in one interaction, they checked out at least one book, but that doesn't mean that it was just one book. They could have interacted once and checked out 15 books, which is some new information that our library system recently started putting out, so I wanted to include that this year. In general, though, in terms of how many items that we've totally checked out in the span of a year, patrons, whether they are from here or if we're lending them out to other libraries, we've circulated 45,000 items, which is almost roughly the amount of physical items that we have in the library. So if you think about it, it's kind of like picking up each of the books at the library and moving it, but that's not necessarily the case. Some books are more popular than the others. In total, though, including our physical books as well as the electronic materials, so ebooks and audiobooks, which are quite popular, we actually have almost 100,000 total collection items. The electronic items are definitely growing. If you're looking at this document, there's a page with colorful circles under collections. There's actually more e-materials in our collection than physical, but that's because we share a lot of e-materials with actually pretty much every library in the state of Michigan, because we love to help each other out. The next thing I wanted to point out too is that we have a lot of computer usage and like public Wi-Fi usage. We have a lot of visitors who visit solely just to come use our computers to print stuff off. I know I've said this before, things like job interviews or job applications, filling out or creating resumes. Honestly, things that I am not really at liberty to talk about, but just so many like things that are helping people, I guess, get their life, back on track, getting things in order for themselves, which is just really awesome to help facilitate that sort of service for them. The next thing I want to talk about is our financial stuff, which I know that we just kind of talked about that last Thursday, but this is going back to a specific year in which we received a very generous donation from the Kunesh family. So in this pie chart, you can see that a big portion of it is dominated by the trusts and the donations money. We unfortunately don't get $400,000 every year, so naturally that number is a lot lower, and I can currently say that there isn't really any plans for those funds, but I know that there's a lot that needs to be addressed in the future, so I know that at some point we'll have to be spending money, but nothing currently. The next thing I want to talk about, which I've also mentioned last Thursday, just due to some things going on both at the state and federal level, some of our financial income is going to be changing just because, again, of certain laws. For example, as I mentioned last Thursday, penal fines come from, in the state of Michigan, civil infractions and not major crimes, I guess. But anyways, they get dispersed to all of the Michigan libraries. However, that's now changing, and so some of it's going to schools now. So anyways, we are going to expect some dips in funding, so that'll be interesting, but luckily we're in an okay state right now. I don't really need to talk about what we've been spending money on, because I told you guys last Thursday, but we basically spend money on paying the staff to be there. All of them are super delightful. If you've never been and met them, I suggest that you do. And then we spend almost $20,000 for a full fiscal year on materials. Sorry. As I told you last Thursday, we are technically under budget for our materials this year, which again is great just for saving money, not spending things frivolously. And then lastly is just the upkeep of the building. A lot of what I've been doing since I've been here is updating furniture, adding things to kind of, not necessarily modernize, but just to kind of expand collections more so. I've been very excited about, I guess, just kind of making things modernized in the context of the aesthetic of that library. And as I'll be back up here in a little bit, we are also updating our carpet, and I hope to change everything about the youth area to make it a little bit more lively and colorful, so that is something I'm super excited about. And the last thing I'll talk about is that we have a lot of programs over the course of a year. As you can see, it's pretty much near 300 programs, which is, I mean, it's not near a program every single day, but there's a lot of programs. I can't thank Heidi, our programming coordinator, enough for handling all of that all throughout the whole year. She really does an awesome job. So yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Thank you.
2 questions. One, for the use of the computer at the library, do they need a library card to use the computer?
They do not. Anybody can come and use a library card.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And secondly, probably for Dave or Josh, because you would know, and I don't, I've had several people from Cambria Township approach me recently wondering why Cambria Township is not a part of the library family like Hillsdale and Jefferson Township is, and why they are paying the $40 a year for a library card. Have we discussed things with Cambria
I
Township?
believe they were decades ago, right? And they opted out?
They were originally a part of our library, or the Hillsdale Community Library, and at one point they decided to, for lack of a better word, negotiate a better contract with the reading library.
Oh.
So essentially, Like our township contracts with Hillsdale and Jefferson, they pay differently than like the city residents here. So instead of like each of them being taxed individually, the township does their taxes and the township pays on their behalf a lump sum that at some point we negotiated with both of them, yeah.
But Cambria Township chose to opt out.
Yes, and I'm not too sure when that happened. It might have been when the new building was built, so roughly 20 years ago.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I know for sure, like when the library was still in the Mitchell building,
Right.
Cambria Township was for sure
Part of that.
still a part of them,
Now,
yeah.
if they wanted to opt back in, would that be something that you would reach out to them, or they would reach out to us?
Honestly, I think both. I mean, I think our board as a whole could approach them and say, we know we used to charge this, would you consider this?
Oh,
And I think the Cambria board, or the Cambria Township, I mean, I don't think that we would necessarily turn them away. I can't imagine unless it was like $50, but, yeah, I think honestly, either or, it could go,
okay,
either way between the parties, yeah.
great, appreciate it, thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
Yeah, we could. It's always good for us. They have about 2,000 people. Hillsdale has about 2,000 people and pays what, 6,000, 7,000?
8.
8? Yeah, so we
Yeah.
could come forward. That's, yeah, good idea. Always good to renegotiate. Yep, Councilman Morrissey?
Yeah, it seems to me that the people from Cambria that are contacting you should contact their representatives, because they're the ones who will make the decision about
Yeah.
whether they want to join or not.
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, we also have a lot of people who just come into the library with Cambria Township addresses, and I mean, I don't even think a lot of them are aware of the change either. Like, they're like, oh, this used to be the case. So, yeah, it would be great to, I don't want to say take them back, but it would be great to have them back too, because I know there's a lot of disappointed people who come into us, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilman Wolfram?
The 8,192 reference questions, do you know how much of that is coming from the Mitchell Research Center?
So none of that is in our statistics, aside from like if somebody comes in and says, hey, do you guys have, a lot of times people are coming in and looking for like, century-old newspapers. They come in asking us. We have people who will come in and ask us questions like that, and we'll say, your best bet is going to be at the Mitchell next door. And I mean, I feel like that question gets asked, I don't want to say, every single day, but certainly like a handful of times a month. We send a handful of people there. They come into our building, and we have to tell them, go next door, they're open Tuesday through Thursday. So I don't want to say a lot. I mean,
But the Mitchell Research, the references that they do when people come in, that isn't showing up in your database, so.
no, because they're not a part of us.
Okay.
Yeah, do they have their own reporting that they do to you guys? I'm not familiar.
There's no statutory requirement, and I don't know that I've seen it. They put out the newsletter, but I don't know that it has, it might have visitors on it actually.
Yeah, I think actually their newsletter does actually have
Yeah,
that information on
Yeah.
it. They do have information on that, but yeah, theirs isn't a part of ours.
Okay.
Yeah.
any other comments or questions? Thank you for being here. We'll see you in a minute. Oh. Okay, you are staying.
I am.
Don't have to. But it would be good. Okay. Letter D. Hillsdale County Commissioner, verbal update. Commissioner Ingles, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. A couple things. At our last meeting 2 weeks ago, we had discussion and a motion to engage bond counsel regarding a Hillsdale County bond issuance for Lifeways. Much discussion, it did pass, and bond counsel has been, spoken with a list of questions. And I want to update Hillsdale City Council that anyone who has comments or opinion, please do outreach commissioners. We have on our website emails listed, phone numbers, and regular mailing address. I do expect that this will be brought up at our next meeting on May 13th, so any comments would be welcome to help us make an informed decision. That to engage council did pass 3-2, so there are commissioners that are in favor, there are commissioners that are not in favor of Hillsdale County providing a bond. So if anyone does have comment, please do reach out to your commissioner or me, or any commissioner would be happy to receive your emails, phone calls, or regular mail on this subject. In addition, at our next meeting, we have 3 quotes that will be presented, which are architect engineer quotes for 25 Care Drive remodeling, which is the proposed destination of our District 2 court. And we'll see where that goes with the 3 bids that, or quotes that will be presented. So that completes my update for now. If you have any questions, please ask.
Councilman Bentley?
Thank you, Commissioner Ingalls. Can you say a few words about the previous meeting you had before the bond council, and the public comment and the emails that the commissioners received?
Sure, we had, I personally received 75 emails. All were opposed to the Hillsdale County providing and issuing a bond on behalf of Lifeways. We had much public comment. Of the public comment, it lasted about an hour. All who spoke, except for one person, were opposed. The one person was a Lifeways employee.
Any other comments or
How many speakers spoke from the podium, do you know?
You know, my guess would be between 20 and 25, I would think.
And they were unanimous?
Minus 1.
Thank you.
Councilman Flynn?
Commissioner, is that city property that's going to be built on, or did we sell the county that property? Because that's inside the city limits, is it not? Where the Lifeways building is going to be built?
That is not county property. They purchased that property. It's
Okay.
in the city. It's
Yeah, I
Neck
know.
Road,
Yeah.
Industrial Drive.
Okay, that's what I figured. And is that going to be taxable, or are they
It would be tax exempt.
tax exempt? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Flynn. I'll just note on that, I might come to the commissioners meeting and that would be my primary objection. We've been beating this dead horse for a while, but I think we need to leave especially those properties on Carlton open for taxable properties. We've seen what Meyer and Aldi and a few other properties can do for our general fund, and that really is one of our few remaining prime properties in the city. Not that there are any plans for it, but you know, we didn't know about Meyer a few years ago. Councilman Sohan.
Just it's my understanding that property is already owned by
Yes,
not
it
for
was.
profit.
That's right.
And it's a transaction between 2 private,
Oh,
relatively private, I mean, Lifeways is
okay.
kind of a mix.
Yes. Anything else for the commissioner? Thank you, Doug.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we will move on to introduction and adoption of ordinances and public hearings. First, we have a public hearing for the CDBG grant closeout. Sam, would you like to give us an update on this before we open the podium? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Last week, we requested that council schedule this public hearing. As part of this grant closeout effort, the city is required to hold a public hearing. Just a little bit of context about the specific project. It was a water-related infrastructure grant that the city had applied for back in 2022. This project was completed at the end of last year. The total project cost was $2.7 million. The grant from the MEDC was $2 million, and then on the BPU side, there was about $700,000 that was chipped in for this. Concord was the contractor for the project. Everything was completed to spec and staff satisfaction. What this actually did for the city was basically replaced 75 water inline shutoff valves, and it allowed us to cure basically some of the worst spots in our sanitary sewer line. There was about a mile and a little bit over a mile that was selected, and so this was kind of this preventative maintenance work based on the staff's approach of trying to identify some of these problem spots and fix them before they ended up failing and costing the city more in the long run. So as part of this grant process, we just have to hold a public hearing, offer folks an opportunity to comment on the project once it's finished. And then there's no council action required. Staff will go ahead and complete the paperwork to get this final.
Were there any concerns about the project? I assume that's what this would be for.
No, there are no concerns. You know, it was completed successfully. Everything was done to spec. Staff's been happy with the project. It's just an opportunity for any folks to comment on it. They have a comment.
Is there a map of which ones were replaced? I don't see anything here.
I don't know that there's certainly not a map in the packet, but
okay.
I mean the city has that data.
Okay. If you could send that to council, maybe include it in the packet too. Okay. Any other comments or questions for Sam before we open the public hearing? Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will open the podium. You may speak on the CBDG grant closeout. The podium is open. Okay. If there are no public comments, I will close the podium. Thank you. And we will move on to an adoption of ordinance. Some amendments to city ordinances, and Alan is here.
So there are a total of 5 that the planning commission has been working on for most of a year. There were so section 18 and 103 and 113. Currently, the city does not permit or allow private streets, and so in housing developments, that means those streets wind up on the included in the under the city's maintenance requirements. So what Jason and I discussed was to add the allowance of private streets as long as they're built according to a standard, and then and that way they wouldn't wind up included in the city's maintenance requirements, which is already overburdened. So.
Would those developments form an HOA to manage their own? Or?
Most of those developments already have HOAs,
okay.
And yes, that's what they would wind up having to do, is they would maintain their own.
But there wouldn't be any tax benefit for the people in that development. They would just have autonomy over their own infrastructure. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions on these first 2? Okay. Oh, sorry, Councilman Soho.
Is it an ex post facto? I mean, like, could Stoll Construction apply for this with their duplexes on Bacon, or?
They are already, they wound up doing those anyway as private because they didn't build them according to city guidelines.
So those are already, this would just have required Stoll to make them to a specific specification.
Right.
Is there any penalty for not making it according to the city specifications?
Not at this point.
Okay. Is there any risk of the way that they built them?
Well, they have to maintain them, so if they fall apart, they have to rebuild them, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else on that? Okay.
Okay, section 36.411, and that's a typo. 36.412. Those are both housekeeping. There were changes to the dwelling definition and some other things. And so we updated those two ordinances to reflect amendments that had been done in previous years but weren't caught in this section. The other thing that I'm trying to do is, as I'm finding these things, if it refers back to a certain, I try and just have it refer back to an ordinance. That way I don't have to go through every single ordinance and find out that there was a specification in this ordinance that should have actually just been a reference to a previous ordinance or another ordinance. So I'm trying to find those and kind of link them together rather than have them scattered, rather than have individual requirements scattered all over the ordinance. And then are there any questions on that?
So that's, what are the main ones there? The new minimum floor area per unit is it 600 now?
Right, that's the dwelling, which is 36-5, we changed that several months ago.
Yeah.
But it was actually listed in that ordinance as 1,000, rather than just referring back to the definition, or the section.
Yeah, Municode still has it as 1,000. And Katie, how often do you update that?
It's because they haven't been updated yet.
Okay, is it yearly?
Yes.
They only update it once a year?
Supplement, I think it's supplement number 22, they haven't updated it yet.
Okay, alright.
But it should be on our website, the ones that are.
Yeah, so the ordinances that are revised, Katie actually puts under the, when you pull, if you're on the web page, and you pull up the code of ordinances, down at the bottom of that that title page, it lists all of the amended ordinances, so you can look at those, and then as Municode updates them, Katie takes those off.
Okay, so you can add the supplements on your own initiative?
Well, it's on our website,
Yeah.
and once we send them to Municode, and whenever they do their, upgrade or whatever to 23, they'll take all that and put it in. It just hasn't hit yet.
Okay.
So the ordinances are on our website though.
Okay. And then the other main change was to the minimum width in feet, size lot per unit. What does that refer back to? Q in parentheses, P?
So that has to do with land divisions. We had a couple of land divisions that when they were divided, we made recommendations. The recommendations weren't adhered to, and there were issues with future development not meeting MDOT and other government agency standards. So we decided to actually put it in the ordinance so they can't argue with us in the future.
Does it change the minimum lot size per unit?
No, didn't change. It didn't change the existing lot size.
Okay.
It only changes future land division lot sizes.
Okay, and what is that size?
66 feet is a minimum for residential, and I think it's 103 feet is the minimum for a commercial.
What's the minimum right now? Don't we have homes in lots 30 something feet?
No, we don't have any reserve that small.
Oh, okay.
The minimum right now is 60.
Okay.
I believe we do have some that are smaller, Alan, because we were dealing with those on Berry Street.
Right.
They were
Well,
split.
I mean, they may be existing, but they wouldn't meet the current ordinance.
I see. Okay.
So, I mean, yes, there are lot sizes in the city that currently don't meet our current ordinance, but they're legal non-conforming. So.
And what, thinking of, the Howell Street property, some of these homes that have burned down, is there any way to accommodate reconstruction on those properties, even if they don't meet these guidelines?
You could still develop. They still would meet the existing zoning ordinances, they would just be, I mean, it just makes it, they would just be smaller, they would be smaller dwellings.
Okay, so the West Street property, West and Bacon, could be rebuilt?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, I think those were the main ones. Any others you wanted to mention, Alan?
36-412, the ones that we changed in that are zoning districts that we did away with back in 2017 or 19, when we did a rezoning of the city. 681, we just added the clarification that fence permits are required. It's covered under the zoning, in the zoning ordinance, but there was lots of people who get the fence ordinance and then don't realize that they still have to have a permit, so we just added it there so that there's no question.
Okay, approval was required, but a permit wasn't required?
Well, no, the permit was still required,
Right.
it's just that people would say, well, it's not in the ordinance.
Okay.
Except it is in the chapter,
Right.
it just wasn't in that specific
Okay.
section.
Okay, anything else on that one? All set? Okay, any overall questions, comments, concerns? Yes, and I think you have them structured as 4 resolutions?
Yes.
4 ordinances. So we will need 4 separate motions. So we'll start with sections 18-103 and 18-113 for streets and private streets. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. Katie, could I have a roll call vote?
May. Councilperson Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel, Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson
Yes.
Bentley, and Bruns.
Yes.
8-0, it's approved.
Sorry, I guess we could do roll call, but they're ordinances. Okay, section 36-411
So moved.
and 412, sorry.
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. Could I have a roll call vote, Katie?
Yes. Councilperson Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley,
Yes.
Bruns,
Yes.
and Flynn.
Yes.
8-0, approved.
Thank you. Okay, section, what are we on? 36-681, thank you. Can I have a roll call vote? Oh, I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Soha. Can I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley,
Yes.
Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
and Morrissey.
Yes.
7-1, that's approved.
Thank you very much, Katie. Thank you for bearing with me, council. Okay, if there are no other comments on the ordinances, we will move on to old business. All set? Okay, old business, letter A, Camp Hope Code Enforcement Extension Denial. And we will have Alan or Dave discuss this as well.
All right, I will have Alan come up, because I'm sure there will be some specific questions, but, so that, as was mentioned back in November 2024, the city council discussed Camp Hope at their council meeting and the tent structures at 39 West Carlton Road. The property doesn't meet zoning and building codes, and also there was health and safety concerns at the time that were expressed. After discussion with council publicly, council kind of directed staff to give her to this spring to remove the tents. Code enforcement, Mr. Beaker issued a notice to Missy, giving her to April 30th to come in compliance with the notice of violations, which is remove the tents. on March 25th of this year, Missy requested additional time beyond April 30th to remove the tents. Code enforcement denied her request at that time, and as of today, the structures are still in place. And on May 1st, the day after the deadline, Missy was issued a notice of municipal civil infraction for the violation, and then after 2 weeks from the notice issuance, if the violation isn't corrected, it becomes a district court ticket, and then the matter goes ultimately in front of the judge or the court. Alan, anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, that's how our ordinance works, and that's the process to enforce it, so, our office was just following the process.
Okay, so I believe council can take no action, and this will remain an administrative matter under the city staff's direction, or we could give some renewed guidance. Thoughts from council? Yes, Councilman Stuchel.
I know this is a hot issue, but the issue is we have help for people. There's a place for them to be, get aid, help, versus along the path, all over the city. I mean, nobody wants homeless. We don't want to have the issue, but we do have it. So I'm just questioning if we should really look at maybe extending this until there's long-term help, which we don't know what that is, but Missy has centralized the homeless issue, which I think is a benefit to the entire city.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Councilman Flynn.
I have talked to a number of business owners throughout the downtown area, and they basically say what Mr. Stuchel has said, is that right or wrong, Missy's been able to take the homeless and have them in a centralized area, and that has kept the homeless, not taking one side or the other, but from frequenting areas of the downtown that have become disruptions. And one business owner told me that he found some trying to break into their building one evening, and he said, we don't have that problem now because Missy is taking care of that with Camp Hope. So some of the downtown business owners are behind her effort, right or wrong, but if there's a way we can figure out how to make it work for everybody, it'd be a good idea.
Thank you, Councilman Flynn. Councilman Wolfram.
You'll recall that we had people camping along the bike path and other places, and so we made, I made it a civil infraction to camp on city property, and Missy has found a place that they could camp, and so I think I think that's valuable. That otherwise, if she has to eliminate the tent and move everybody off of there, they're probably going to end up back where they were when we had the first problem.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfram. Councilman Soha? No, go ahead.
Thank you. So, while I appreciate what Missy's done, 2 years is a long time, and it would have been helpful if a more permanent solution could have been found. We already have on our trail, again, encampments that have had to been broken up by the police in the last 2 or 3 weeks, some pretty substantial. We even had, was it 1,000 pounds of garbage or more?
I was going to ask Jason to come up and, just at one site, I believe, north of Fayette and east of the St.
Yes,
Joseph's.
so as of Friday and today, we've had 70 man hours and roughly 4,000 pounds of trash that we've picked up.
4,000?
Over the 5 days that we're out there. We're still not complete. There's one more encampment we're waiting with the police to clear this week.
How does that compare so far to last year's cleanup numbers?
Just probably double. It's more? Oh, absolutely. This is the most trash in my time that I've seen on there since I've been here. the last time the difference is it was isolated. This has been completely from West Street all the way and north.
Yeah, when I walked it from the cemetery all the way to the lake, there were the same spots, basically. I guess I didn't notice more, it just looked like the same stuff sort of reemerged, just more volume.
More volume.
Are there more sites?
Yeah, now not too many more
Okay.
than the usual. The amount of trash is definitely more than we've seen in recent years.
And do we have anyone speaking from the law enforcement side here? I'm curious if I know there was one person actually arrested, but I don't think it was for the camping ordinance, it was for a bench warrant out of Branch County. Do we know how many people, if anyone, has been cited under the ordinance?
We could not know that tonight.
Okay. Yeah, don't have chief here. Yeah, the main concern for me, one of the main concerns for me was when, I think you were there when we talked to fire, the fire department, and they were concerned about the structures, the health and safety for the residents in the structure. I think that was the main reason we started these actions.
Are you talking about?
Yes, well, both actually, yes, but because they had like, not propane, maybe propane heaters out on the trail, is that correct? Some sort of heating structure, but also in Camp Hope, the fire department's assessment to the Public Safety Committee in 2024 was that there was a possible risk due to the impermanence of the structure. Okay, any other comments from council? Yes?
Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. I have a question actually for the city attorney as it relates to our ordinances and whatnot in regards to these structures. If we choose to basically ignore what we have on the books, does that put the city in any type of legal liability if there was to be a fire and someone were to perish in one of those structures? Could you?
No. You have governmental immunity.
Even if we, as council, just chooses not to enforce a certain ordinance?
Right, there's no obligation that you have to enforce an ordinance. No one can generally compel you except for under very limited circumstances. And that would be a court ordering by granting an issue of mandamus to somebody to enforce something. So yeah, you would only have liability for things that constitute some sort of tort. And then it's only for limited circumstances that are exceptions to governmental immunity under the Governmental Tort Immunity Act. So yeah, there's no risk to the city. There might be a risk to the health of people that are in their neighboring structures, but that's not something that lies with the city. That lies with whoever provided for the structure, whoever may have engaged in a negligence or intentional act that would cause harm.
Is there any way to cure the infraction by filing a permit, following building codes? Is it prohibitively expensive?
Alan, could you come up?
So if you were to follow the ordinance, transitional housing is permitted within the ordinance. However, you have to, it would require architectural and engineering drawings that are reviewed and approved by a planning commission, and then the structure would have to be built according to the Michigan State Construction Code, and it would have to pass state requirements for a structure. So yes, it's possible to do it according to all of the rules and regulations, but yes, it's exceedingly expensive.
Okay, so there's no way within the current ordinance to have this type of structure.
No, which is why she's in violation of the ordinance.
Right, okay. Yes, Councilman Sullivan?
Well, so additionally, I've had residents from the apartment complex just above the thrift store who have complained about the language and the fires and other things over the last 2 years. that happens, that comes up from the parking lot. While I'm glad that Rebecca's life was saved, I admire that and applaud it. You know, we keep making exceptions. We get lambasted for making exceptions to extend businesses, you know, grants and, you know, fulfilling their requirements and their obligations. And then here we are trying to enforce an ordinance and we're getting lambasted for enforcing the ordinance. And then I, for one, take great offense to people choosing to litter and deface our property. I take great offense at finding used needles on public property. They've been found in the downtown district. They've been found on the bike trail between the cemetery and Bobby's. There's human refuse found in open areas that children ride their bicycle by. And I'm just supposed to say, hey, you know what? These guys fell on hard times, give them a break. Well, I'm sorry for the hard times. There are opportunities. Yeah, maybe they're hard to find, but you know what? Life takes hard work sometimes. Life takes sacrifice. We've all worked hard to attain our lifestyles, and that's what's required. And tents are not an acceptable living condition within the city of Hillsdale, period. They're not on the trails and not on private property. It's not an acceptable dwelling within the city of Hillsdale. And I, for one, would not be for an ordinance changing that. We need permanent structures for people to dwell in, not something that can burn down. And there's conflicting reports between the efficacy of this structure or its sanitary conditions. The fire department, who I trust implicitly, have told me things that conflict with what Mrs. Desjardins has said about her facility, and I can't believe that my fire department would lie to me about what their conditions are, what the conditions that they observed are. And so I would encourage our city to just say, you know, homelessness is not an acceptable lifestyle. Find the source. I'd encourage our churches to philanthropically do something, but we as a city need to maintain the city's integrity. And that does not include allowing people just to make a home anywhere they please. It's unfair to the taxpayer. It's unfair to the family with 10 children who can't let their children ride their bicycles free. It's unfair to me or my wife, who might want to walk down to the lake in Bobby's when it's twilight or dark, and we're always looking in the shadows, wondering if somebody's lurking there. It's unfair to the property owners who people don't ask for permission and choose to camp there because they're absentee property owners. And then the city cops don't have enforcement rights until they get the property owner's permission. That's unfair. And while I appreciate the efforts that have been made, you know, 2 years is enough. And different options, different solutions have to be found.
So can I speak, because I came
Thank
with
you.
a solution?
I'm fine with that, but let's go around the horn here one more time. Councilman Stuchel?
You know, we really do have a catch-22, and disbanding post-hope is only going to create a larger problem throughout the city, which you're concerned about. I think the issue is we need to have a place for the homeless. If it is a tent, it's a tent, but it's an isolated place, it's a controlled place, it's a controlled environment, the best we can do. To put this all the way through the streets and up and down the city is not the answer. But part of that answer is law enforcement needs to enforce anything outside of Camp Hope. I mean, if we have people on the trails, that's city property, that needs to be enforced strictly, hard, because we want to put people, I mean, we don't want to put anybody in Camp Hope, but we do offer an opportunity. And Missy has a lot of programs, and it's a step out of homeless. To take it away, you're just going to exacerbate the problem throughout the entire city. But we need to lean on our police officers to enforce our ordinance. But at the same time, we're going to overlook an ordinance. That's a catch-22. I get it.
Thank you, Councilman Stuchel. Councilman Wolfram?
Yes, I was unaware. I'm glad that Jason informed me about the extra trash. I was unaware of that, so I'm happy that it came to light.
Yes, his team has done a good job out there. Any other comments or questions from council? Okay. The only other piece of this that I can think of is the Share the Warmth expansion. Hopefully by next year. I doubt they're gonna get it done this summer. Maybe we should have asked Mrs. Myers to come in for an update. They're gonna have hopefully a permanent operating base all year round, I believe 24/7 on top of it, but at least at night all year round. So that could help alleviate some of these issues. But I haven't heard a clear time frame about when that will come about. Okay, anything else? Yes, Councilman Wolfram.
This isn't just our problem, right? Malibu Beach
It's all over.
So, and Venice.
And I don't know why you'd want to be here rather than Malibu. Councilman Stuchel, did you have something else?
Yeah, I wonder if I can make a motion to, I guess, avoid this ordinance, to allow Camp Hope to exist, but at the same time, ask our police department to enforce outside of Camp Hope.
Yes, I think all we would need is the specifics of the enforcement action, right? What exactly you're proposing, but unless there are objections from council members, I would invite Missy to speak. Any objections?
I appreciate the offer, but why couldn't she have spoken during regular public comment?
That's true. Yep, we could limit it to 3 minutes.
That's fine, I appreciate that, but
Okay.
that's what public comment's for.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Soha.
Mr. Mackey? Hi, Melissa Descharden, Executive Director.
Turn it on.
Hi, Melissa Descharden, Executive Director of Hillsdale Community Thrift. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, and Councilman. Did I not request this to be on the agenda? Did I not message you to ask to speak tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I thought in old business that I didn't know was on a time limit.
That's up to the.
Gotcha. So, now that I see where everybody stands, I wish I was able to speak first because I was actually coming with a solution. But now I'm seriously thinking about it if this city actually deserves it. I asked to speak with you today for updates on our future plans. When we opened in 2018, we had no plans of housing the homeless. In 2023, changed that with the city ordinance banning camping on public property. We formed a Hillsdale impact team to change the original ordinance and also help find guidance with the transitional housing. We now have waited for a full-time shelter or a full-time warming center. It didn't happen. We were planning on taking everyone to the warming center because we were led to believe that they were going to stay open through the summer. That is what we were told. So I had every intention of taking down my tent and moving everybody there. April 24th, they closed. So what was I left with to do? So the plan is our transitional facility happens now. So with that being said, we have located a building downtown that we will move our thrift store to, and we have a lease agreement and the down payment already secured. All I have to do is put a signature to it. Our current main location, also known as the old Big Boy building, will become the transitional facility. It will offer a structured program using our local agencies and nonprofits for supportive services. Employment assistance, housing placement, case management with an on-site social worker full-time, life skills development, mental health support, sober meetings, financial classes, and so much more. The ultimate goal will be to help the individuals regain stability and independence during their most critical phase of their lives. This program isn't just for the homeless, but also for the post-incarceration, after addiction recovery program, and anyone that needs help with securing self-sufficient, self-sustainable, and safe housing. I was asked a little over a year ago if I could continue this work so that our city could be used as an example of how to solve the homeless crisis, and I haven't stopped. Does anyone have any questions for me? Because the only other thing is, can I really have more than 3 minutes, please? Because I'm not asking for.
I would move that she can
That's
speak.
fine.
We can give her time for questions, yep.
Thank you. I also have one more thing to add. My ask is this: grant me an extension to execute this plan. I can execute this plan in less than 4 months. But again, this would have been done already had I known that there was not going to be a full-time entity. Otherwise, I'd have had this done already. I want you to understand that. I don't want to stand up here and break any rules or any laws. But I do know when it comes time to it, sometimes just crap happens, and it didn't work out. So we have to execute another plan. So with that being said, all we want to do is serve our community. A transitional shelter has a 73 to 86% success rate in housing people in sustainable housing and keep that housing for longer than a year. Our transitional facility, running out of a tent, is at 74%. That's how many people, that's the percentage of how many people got into sustainable housing. We will use an outcome measurement guide. We'll be able to report, we constantly call people who have already been housed. We ask them how they're doing. They can still use us as a resource. We will offer times for the public to be able to use our services at a future date. We will also be providing meals for the public, and those dates will be released at a future time as well. I'll now take your questions.
Any questions, Councilman Soha?
Thank you, Missy. Why didn't you include that language in the packet for us to read before? I wasn't aware that you wanted to speak. I saw that there was an extension denial. There's nothing in the packet that told me that you had a plan.
So,
nothing communicated to me personally.
absolutely. So I can answer that. This got put together as an emergency on April 24th is when I started to execute all of this. It is now what, May 5th? So I had less than 10 days basically, or 9 days, I can't do math right now, I'm too nervous, to get this all in action. While I had it all in my back pocket, I wasn't about to announce it until I absolutely positively knew that I had the support coming from the city. I mean, because I have to work now with rezoning that building. I'm gonna have to work with that. I know that that is not an easy task. So I have to work with the zoning commission. So the thing about it is that I'm sorry that you weren't prepared, but neither was I. I was told that the warming center was gonna stay open through the summer, so you can imagine my panic when I heard that they were closed on the 24th. And what am I gonna do with 2 young individuals that can barely remember to bathe themselves, let alone another woman who's a brittle diabetic that at any moment she can drop to 40, and if she doesn't get her glucose pills right away, she'll die. So it's really hard to sleep at night knowing, and I know I wouldn't sleep at night knowing if they were gonna be back on those trails. So forgive me for not getting it prepared in enough time. I wasn't prepared myself either.
Councilman Flynn?
I'm assuming you spoke with Mrs. Myers about that? Her closing on the 24th?
From what one of my staff members reached out to one of their board members.
Okay.
So if it was a miscommunication, then it was a miscommunication, but.
Well, I just don't wanna, I mean, you can see where I'm coming from. It's like, this is a you and her issue.
No, it's not an issue at all. See, the difference between a warming center and a transitional facility is I have an actual program. I can mandate drug testing. I can mandate who can use the transitional program and who can't. When you run a shelter and it takes any kind of state funding, anybody can come in the doors. Now, if they're being disgruntled, of course they can be kicked off the property. But, you know, my plan is how it's always been from 2 years ago, that you will not do drugs. And if you want sustainable housing, then you must follow my program.
Oh, I just meant, I understand.
Oh, sorry.
I just meant from the standpoint of, you know, you were led to believe by the warming center that they would be open all summer, and then they closed. So I just don't want people to think that that was a city thing.
No, gosh,
you know,
no.
Okay, so that was
no.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I know it wasn't a city thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Flynn. Councilman Bentley?
Where's the building downtown?
The old Mary Beth's building. Next to Gold Star.
Councilman Soha?
That's gonna be the thrift store location?
That'll be only the thrift store.
Your current location is what you would like to,
Yes.
you're gonna have to do a lot of work inside that building.
We pretty much have all the fixtures that we need to be able to utilize the space appropriately. Yeah.
That's the zone business district right now. Do you have an off-the-cuff idea of whether that can be rezoned? That would be a spot zoning problem, wouldn't it?
Alan, do you wanna come up?
There's no such thing as spot zoning.
Right, we can't do that, so.
No, spot zoning is not illegal and it's not an actual thing. So, it was an issue that came up in the '60s and has since been, it's not a, as long as it is in keeping with the master plan and is not, egregious to the adjacent property owners, you can still do it. I mean, you're not gonna, the planning commission has the control though to say no.
Right.
But if you, you're not gonna wanna put an industrial plant in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
And it would have to be rezoned multi-family residential.
Multifamily residential is allowed in the B3 district.
Oh, it is, okay. So there wouldn't need to be a rezoning.
No, it would be a change of use of the structure.
Change of use, okay.
Yeah, that's what would have to be, reviewed and approved, but it would have to be reviewed and approved by not only us, but also by the building inspector as well.
Okay, Councilman Morrissey.
Just a quick question, it would come before the planning commission, and would it also, because she was thinking it was gonna come for zoning.
Yeah, because it's a change of use of the building.
Both,
Yes.
so both, okay. Just for your information.
No, for sure, thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions from council? Councilman Bentley?
What do you expect the capacity to be?
I think I'll talk with the building inspector first to see, but I don't, with giving good care, optimal care, I would not wanna serve more than 25 at a time.
Okay, Councilman Soha?
Thank you. What, do you have, a guess at how long you'll need? What the time frame would be to be able to?
So the reason why I said 4 months is because once I sign the lease, then basically it'll take us about, say about 3 weeks to move into the main building. And then from there, my husband is a licensed contractor, so he can speak all that lingo. So he will speak with the city and all the inspectors and get what we need done there. We plan on just having temporary walls put up just for a little privacy when they're sleeping. We'll have a men's and women's area. Making sure we have all of the smoke detectors and the extinguishers and everything we're supposed to in that aspect. We will have to come up, we'll have to have an engineer draw up to put in a shower in there. Other than that, then the kitchen, and so the health department already said that they would come and help me and let me know exactly what I need for there too. And so that's why I said about 4 months. So I don't think I'd need longer than that.
Follow-up?
Yes, please, thank you. Do you own the thrift store, or are you still leasing that?
We're on a land contract.
That's oh good,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep,
Congratulations, I knew there was some trouble there.
Yes.
One big concern I have is how do we police it? I know you police it well, but police it in the fact that some yahoo from California hears that there's this great spot in Hillsdale, Michigan, and makes his way here to take advantage of the services you provide.
I can assure you that my program will not even come close to what Jackson can provide. Jackson has way more resources than we do, or Lenawee, or Adrian. Many of them actually have programs that have been in place for, Interfaith has been in business for over 50 years. So they've definitely built a reputation for themselves. I I don't think by having a transitional shelter will bring people to Hillsdale to our transitional shelter. I don't foresee that at all. And only just because after running the tent and everything we provide, we still don't have, nobody has ever come from some other county to come to Camp Hope. So the people are already here. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about that. If that's your concern, that'd be no different than, I guess, you guys choosing not to have a transitional shelter and us sending them to Jackson.
I mean, I've heard differently from respectable people that
Oh, that may be
people have come
That
from
may be
outside.
true, but not to my camp.
That's where I've heard that they have come because of what your camp provides. I
It'd be
don't,
interesting to know who these people are. No, I mean the clients. I'd be interesting to know which homeless it was that came from a different county just to come to Camp Hope.
I thought it was bizarre myself.
I think it's incredibly bizarre. Yeah.
But, so, I'm amenable to considering this. I'm not willing to make a decision today, but I would like for public to have some input in this space. If we could put it maybe on the 17th agenda or 19th agenda. I don't know how would we do that, Mr. Mayor.
That's a possibility. The only problem is that our attorney will be in court in 10 days, something like that. 2 weeks from the time the citation was issued, May 15th.
Well, so May 15th, but it's gonna take longer than that to get to court.
Yeah, probably, so they've scheduled.
That's just when it's triggered.
Yeah, my code enforcement hearing, so the district court will receive the ticket, and if there's after the citation, they have 10 days to either take care of it, or in the case of our citations, to do a response, because we always request a formal hearing, so they can't just pay the ticket. So they've scheduled the last set that I had scheduled was for June 3rd, so presumably it would be sometime after that the hearing would be scheduled with the district court. And typically what we do with those, just so you know, is oftentimes in consultation with the code enforcement office, or if you have given direction as to what you want to have done, there is a way that we can handle this so that it provides for a court order that says within a certain period of time they're either going to bring the facility into compliance or take it down, right? Which would be the offending current Camp Hope structure. So we could theoretically enter into a consent judgment that would provide that if they're going to have this transitional facility, when's the date by which that's going to be done, and they just have to hit that target.
But we can also handle this politically rather than judicially.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would rather not pay you to do that if we're gonna make the same decision, no offense.
Yeah, the only thing about that is then you actually have an enforcement mechanism already in place if they don't comply. So generally, oftentimes what we'll do is if you comply, you don't have to pay the fines and costs. It's, you're basically the goal is compliance, it's not to take your money. And if you don't though, then the court's order is enforceable as of that time. And the city would be able to take steps to dismantle the offending portions of the property if it wanted to. That's the only difference.
Okay, do you have an estimate of how much? It seems like it would be nice to have, not that I don't trust Missy to get this done, but for the sake of future events similar to this, it seems like you do want to have some sort of backstop. What's the cost of doing all that?
My cost usually around between $150 and $200.
I mean, what's your time?
That's.
What's the time load though to get all that done?
You mean in terms of the number of weeks it would take to do it?
Yeah.
Again, you're looking at probably 5 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks somewhere.
Okay, Councilman Wolfram.
Well, it seems, is there an easy way to do this by just going ahead and extending?
That's why I'm weighing the administrative versus judicial.
Yeah, it seems like we could just do that and just give her another 4 weeks and
I thought I heard the attorney to say that if the process starts now, the sheriff doesn't show up and shut it down for what kind of time period?
Well, the sheriff never shows up and shuts it down. That would be a matter of whether or not the city wanted to. So the order is provided and the court is allowed in the case of these types of code enforcement citations. It's the only place where the district court can issue in effect injunctive relief. And so what they can say is they can order that you comply with the ordinance, right? They find you responsible for municipal civil infraction. The judge then orders that you bring the property into compliance within a certain period of time, usually in the amount of time you've worked out with whoever the defendant is, that's reasonable to get it done. I mean, sometimes people request a lot more time than we're willing to give, but, and then if you don't do it within that time, the court authorizes the city, if it wants to go on to the property to do whatever is necessary to bring it into compliance and to charge the costs against the defendant and also as a special assessment lien against the property. So that's the thing that the consent judgment provides, is it gives them the carrot to get it done, right? By whatever date they've agreed to. We can always give them additional time if we think they've made good progress and, you know, it's gonna be imminent. We don't always just automatically, right after the period runs up, trigger it by filing something with the court saying, hey, they weren't in compliance, so now we get to go do whatever we wanna go do with it. So, I mean, we still have flexibility as far as that goes. But that at least gets you, if a citation's already been issued, it's gonna get scheduled with the district court. At that point, I either have to dismiss it without prejudice and wait for it to issue a citation again if it's an issue further down the line, or we can enter into some sort of consent judgment by agreement that says when you're gonna get that taken care of. That's up to you.
Thank you. Follow up?
Yes. So, I think I'm hearing that the prudent thing to do is let the process go forward as it is going forward, and we can intervene anytime in the next 4 months if we're seeing progress. Am I understanding this right?
Yeah, so basically the way it works is the judgment says you have to get it done within a certain period of time. The only time the court does anything is if we come in, it requires the city to file what they call an affidavit of default, right? So I'll contact, when the time runs up, usually the court contacts us and says, hey, they brought the place into compliance. I checked with Alan, Alan sees whether or not they have. Sometimes we decide we're gonna give them more time, so I let the court know we're just gonna give them more time. But the only way that enforcement mechanism is triggered is if we file something with the court, it's called an affidavit of non-compliance, which would come from Alan, where he's averring under oath that they haven't brought the property into compliance, and therefore we can do what it says under the judgment we're allowed to do. And also usually that's when they get assessed fines and costs because they didn't bring it into compliance.
Thank you. Councilman Flynn?
Could you be up and running by October 1st? That would be 4 months roughly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Obviously, there's gonna be some time period of waiting, for, I hope I'm saying this right again, the zoning and.
Oh, yeah, you gotta wait for.
Yeah, I have to
someone
wait for
approve
all
this.
of that to be proved.
Right.
But as far as operating costs and all of that, I'm already doing it. So there really shouldn't be anything that really stops me. It's just a waiting game of getting it done. I have everything I need to set up the facility, even the kitchen and the bathroom. I have everything I need.
Tom, is 4 months okay with the court? I mean, is that, you said, you know, that some tried to extend it too long.
Wait, well, so when I say that, I mean, you know, there are people who have been 2 years, properties out of compliance, and they'll say, well, can you give me another year? And we say, no, how about 90 days or 120 or something like that? But I have some that are 180-day deals that we do, just because of, it's someone who's gotten a hold of the property, didn't realize how much was gonna be involved once they got into it, how bad the structure was. And we've done those kinds of things. And the court basically will pretty much do whatever it is that we've agreed with the defendant to do.
Well, I would think, real quick, Greg, I would think that since they're already in the building, they know the positives and the negatives of the building. They're not going into a building that they just bought and don't know if there's rats in the walls or, the ceiling's falling in, stuff like that, so they already know the structure is sound, that if we give them a timeline of 4 months, and say, hey, get her done by September 30th, if it's already halfway there and it just needs some basic stuff and then waiting around for permits to be approved, things like that, I think that's a doable thing.
Thank you, Councilman Flynn. Councilman Sturgill.
I agree with that. However, I'd like to extend it more than 4 months, just before life happens. And so Missy can sleep at night, she's got a little bit of breathing room, that's all. I mean, we're still waiting for the Kiefer to open, aren't we? And we're still fighting for that. But I mean, there's unknowns. I mean, in any project that I've ever run, you have contingency for money, you have contingency for time as well. So I would like to offer a little bit more than 4 months, so she's got some breathing room.
Thank you, Councilman Sturgill. Councilman, so how are you waiting? Councilman Bell?
Yeah, so I only took the seat in November, and this is one of the first things that we addressed then, and it seemed to have already been a long-term issue. So I'm open to the merciful call, but there has to be some built-in accountability, and we seem to struggle with that. So let the process go forward as it is, and she can show us her progress in the intervening months. But if we just keep extending it and extending it, like, what are we doing?
Thank you, Councilman Bentley. If council is going to extend it, I think I probably would take the opposite view. That's gonna be a cost to us, and she'll have to deal with judicial concerns during that whole time. I understand your reasoning, right? Then there's a consent judgment and it has the force of law behind it. I think I do like the idea of keeping it within the legislative body though. One middle ground solution could possibly be that we extend a month, 2 months, and there's some sort of target. Okay, a month you have to have your stuff out of the building. 2 months you have to have plans. 3 months, I don't know what it is, right? And so it's coming back to us for consistent, it's not like the Kiefer where we just reapprove it every year and then see what happens. But there's consistent deadlines. That way we have sort of a constant judgment of the council at the same time as a possibility of ending it if the plan falls apart or something changes.
But before we take this drastic step that you guys seem to be considering, has anybody from the city staff been in the building? Like, do we have any idea what the condition is, or are we just going off what, no facts, but accountability? Like, I'd like some professional to go in there and say, yeah, seems reasonable, or this is ludicrous. Like, I don't have any way to know.
Well, it's currently open as a business, so I'm assuming that it's good enough for a business to run out of
Well,
it.
are you talking about the store or the
No.
tenant? The camp?
Big boy.
Yeah, there's currently a store in there, and they're open to the public, so assuming it's fine.
I just wanted to say that everything has been open at Hillsdale Community Thrifts and at Camp Hope. So if you wanna come see how we structurally formed it, we consulted with an engineer to make it as safe as possible. Now obviously that wasn't documented because I can't afford $10,000. But you're welcome to come and look at it. Hillsdale College kids have come to look, they helped us install the insulation. You're welcome to come and look at it. You're welcome to come anytime and come look at it if you want to see it firsthand.
Councilman Wolfram.
Well, also, we have in terms of what she's been doing before, but now she's got a new plan, and which is very different from the way it was working before. And so we have this really in the last, Missy, how long have you been able to get this going where you're gonna get the new building and that, so it's only been a couple of weeks, right?
We've always had the idea of a transitional shelter, so I've always had my book ready. I just really wasn't ready to execute it just yet, so I had to line up the lease, I had to line up the down payment, I had to line up exactly how I'm gonna execute it, so I did that within 10 days. But luckily I had already had it together because I've been doing the program for the last 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the point I was just trying to make is that it's not like she's, just been stalling and not doing anything. In the last, recently, she's been able to get a new building for her thrift store and is now going to be able to convert that building to a homeless shelter. So.
Councilman Bruns?
Yeah, I'm with Councilman Netley here, and Mr. Thompson, if I understand what he said correctly, suggested that we can set up an initial time frame, and if real progress is being made, extend the time frame before it goes into enforcement. But I do think we need something in place with real penalties and things set in place, so we don't have to babysit her, so that she can get her work done that she needs to get done.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that while the code enforcement was mailed to BMAK Charity Thrifts, Melissa Deschard, Executive Director, the citation is actually in just my name. So if you want to talk about being personally invested, the citation is personally in my name. So obviously I don't eventually comply. If I'm not mistaken, it goes to me. I'll end up in jail. So
So, Councilman Bruns, I think the question is whether we leave this for the attorney to make a consent judgment with the court and Missy, and I would assume we would instruct him about how to do that, but there would be a lot of discretion for the court. So either Missy is accountable to the court or to us directly during this process, right? Those are our options here.
That's not what I'm understanding the attorney to say. We can be involved in the process as it goes forward in their hands. If I'm not mistaken, it's May 15th is the first hearing, which would probably be a 90-second thing or something, and then some in June.
There won't be a hearing until sometime in June or July, probably, by the time the court sets it. And at that point, we would enter into the consent judgment, and we could give her 4 months or 6 months from then, however much time we wanted to give. And then nothing happens unless at the end of that we go back to the court and say, didn't comply, we want to trigger the, and that's all we do, we just file, we're going to trigger the enforcement provisions of the order. And we can leave it sitting for however long we want to after that time period is up. What it just does is once that time period is up, if the city makes a determination and wants to go ahead through with the enforcement part, it's already there. We just have to file one piece of paper with the judge.
And we would direct you about how to establish the consent agreement, what the parameters would be.
Yeah, if you want to do that right now, you can tell me what you want those to be.
Okay, so we could either make it a motion to extend it administratively or to say, pursue a consent agreement with an October 1st deadline or whatever council agrees to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or just leave it open and come back in a month and talk about it again.
There won't be a hearing probably before a month. Like I said, the last set of hearings I had scheduled was scheduled for June 3rd, which means at this point June 3rd is probably full with other stuff. So what we schedule will be sometime after that for my next set of citations that comes in.
So it doesn't seem to me that there's a binary choice that we either hand it to the attorney or we call him off. We let him go forward and we direct him every step of the way.
Yes, I think you're right, and thank you for clarifying that, yes. Okay, so we can do nothing, talk about this. We can make a motion now about how to direct the attorney. We could send it to a committee. We could issue a flat extension right now with no judicial enforcement. It's a good discussion. I think leaving it would be fine and discussing at the next meeting. Councilman Soha?
Which committee would need to address the changing of?
I think public safety, because it's a...
Public safety?
Yes, yep.
Well, then I would just ask public safety to get together and discuss it further if we just maintain the status quo.
Okay. We did, or I'm going to try to follow the procedure of actually formally kicking things to committee. Is that a motion?
Yeah, I was just realizing I'm head of public public safety, so
Yes, you are.
I'll get a meeting set for probably next Thursday.
Okay, so motion to send this to public safety for consideration then?
Second.
Okay, motion on the floor from Councilman Soha to send this matter to public safety, seconded by Councilman Bentley. Any further discussion?
In the meantime, no enforcement. Right, it's going
forward.
It's going forward, but we're not gonna,
Yeah, there's already been enforcement triggered with citation was issued, so it's just a matter of when the time comes for the hearing, you can tell me what you want me to do. Do you want me to continue to pursue it? Do you want me to dismiss it? Do you want me to issue a consent judgment? That's typically what we offer everyone, is the opportunity to comply by way of consent judgment. So that's, the way the process typically works.
My suggestion would be for public safety to get together and to set up monthly, bi-monthly sort of check-ins, and then to make that formal in the consent agreement if that's their judgment.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
If you wanted to do that, usually the consent judgment says you got X amount of time to comply. And before that time's up, you need to contact the code enforcement office to verify that you're in compliance.
So it's usually not particularly specific.
It says what you have to do, it says how long you have to do that, and it says that you have to have someone come from the city, come do an inspection and verify that you're in compliance prior to when that time expires. And that's it. We don't wanna spend the money, time, and effort to have the
Drawing up an
keep going
agreement,
over there
right.
and seeing and making sure that you did, that you applied to the planning commission, that you did whatever else you're supposed to do. You're responsible for making sure you get it done within the time period. Now, when that time's coming up, you contact the city and you say, we're almost there, we just have this piece left, then the determination can be made whether or not we want to just let it ride a bit longer to see if they're able to actually get it over the finish line.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bentley?
Yes, and you can let us know as soon as you get a court date or hearing or whatever triggers happen in the court system. You can email us and we can know that day.
Yeah, I'll let the city manager know.
Thank you.
Inform you all.
Thank you. Councilman Soha?
Well, next week, actually, my evenings are all full with school-related activities. I have this Thursday, and I just wanted to ask public safety.
It's Councilman Flynn and who else is on Stooge?
Or the 22nd.
I'm good anytime. I will not be here this Thursday, so the 22nd.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to kick this to public safety for a discussion on the 22nd. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Council. Very good discussion. Very informative. Glad we explored all the options there.
Thank you for hearing me out today.
Thank you. Okay. Where are we? We are in the new business, letter A, capital improvement plan.
Any questions? Do you wanna know why you have capital improvement plan? So the master plan is required, since the city has zoning, the city must also have a master plan that lays out a 20-year plan that is reviewed every 5 years and either amended, left alone, or completely rehashed. So, and there has to be a financial way to pay for said master plan, and that is the capital improvement plan. Capital improvement plan is a 6-year forecast of how to budget to fulfill to fulfill capital projects that are in compliance and move the master plan forward. They don't have to be specifically out of the master plan, but they have to be in agreement with the master plan, and the CIP is the financial means to achieve them. The way we do it here is each one of the department heads puts together a 6-year forecast or thereabouts of what they think they're going to spend on capital improvements within each one of their departments. And then I put it all together, the planning commission reviews it, holds a public hearing, and then it is sent to you for final adoption. And then next year, we will do it all over again. It's a 6-year plan, but it has to be updated annually.
When is the master plan going to be updated?
We'll start looking at it this year.
With an update probably next year.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, Councilman Wolfram.
You have, in FYE 2027, migrate all SCADA to a single platform. What does that mean?
Where is that at?
That's on page 161. This is on when you are going through what.
I was gonna say, that sounds like something that's IT related.
Okay.
SCADA systems are what we use for our electrical, water, and wastewater plants to document, control all the flows, power, everything. Currently, the water, wastewater on a separate platform from what the electric system is on. We are basically in need of updating all 3 systems. So after the industrial drive electric project is done, which will be in 2 years, that the plan is to update all of those systems, putting all of them on identical systems, so it's all one basic unit.
Okay.
Not a problem.
On page 13, there's fiscal year 31. Dave, you know what this is? There's no, I don't know, there's nothing marked there.
Fiscal year 31, that's approximately $130,000 of the millage expires. So that's just an update that there's going to be a change in how much funding is going to be, that's under the current funding sources, including charter, SAS, and millage. And in fiscal year 31, this millage for that puts $130,000 annually into the budget goes away.
Is that the 2.5 mils? Plus the half mil for leaf?
No, that's a public safety millage.
Oh, that's public safety. Okay. That's what was confusing. It looks like it's next to road stuff. Okay. Have we gotten the city's, Tifa's agreement to spend $100,000 on the TAP grant for the traffic calming project?
No, and you won't have it until that actually, so the next step in that is to find out if we even get the grant. And then there's also a resolution the council has to pass and send to MDOT stating that yes, you're actually going to carry out the project. At that point, then the city and Tifa will have to make an agreement with the state that they will be submitting that amount of money.
Okay, very good. Yes, gotta keep in mind this is all just perspective. Yes, Councilman Bentley.
Yes, this is for Mr. Beaker and perhaps the attorney. To go forward with the MDOT plan, it's gonna have to be a 5-3 affirmative vote.
I'm not aware of any of that.
It has to just,
It has to be a simple majority.
Simple majority, yeah.
Just a
Which in this
standard
case is 5-3.
Yes.
Yeah. 4-4, it does not go forward.
Right, any kind of motion or resolution with 8 people, you have to have 5 in the majority.
No, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on the capital improvement plan? Yes.
Back on the fire department page, which is a page 18 in the plan, but 172 in the packet. I noticed with that $300,000 typo, it said, and purchased in the 2023-24 budget year. Why are we in the future, or talking about the future, but explaining what was purchased in the past? Just help me understand the thinking.
The chief put it in there as a comparison to what we've spent in the past versus what we'll wind up spending in the future.
Oh, that's fair, okay.
Okay, yeah, the language could be clarified a bit there. Okay, any other comments or questions? All right. Well, I'm gonna vote for this. Not necessarily every piece in it, but as an outline. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Motion on the floor to accept the capital improvement plan, seconded by Councilman Soha. Could I have a roll call vote, Katie?
Councilmember Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
Yes.
Councilperson Bentley,
Yes.
Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
and Morrissey.
Yes.
7-1 is approved.
Thank you.
Resolution 3638.
Thank you, Katie. We will move on to letter B, domestic harmony contract.
Hello, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Hannah Jordan, I'm the Executive Director at Domestic Harmony here in Hillsdale. Domestic Harmony is in its 45th year in providing domestic violence services to survivors in Hillsdale County. Our services include a 24-hour crisis line, emergency shelter, individual and group supportive counseling, legal advocacy, and a prevention education program. In the last fiscal year, we provided safe shelter to 24 adults and 24 children, with a total of 3,175 bed nights. 102 received outreach services, and 55 individuals were assisted in obtaining a personal protection order. Since 1981, the City of Hillsdale has entered into a contract with Domestic Harmony for purchasing our services for the constituents of Hillsdale, which raises the question, why domestic harmony services and not other nonprofits? One, it's clearly written into the legislation that it's allowed. House Bill 4563 in 2015 was passed to clarify that municipal boards may appropriate money or expand funds for any private, nonprofit corporation or organization that provides domestic or sexual violence services, included but not limited to safe emergency shelter, 24-hour crisis hotline, supportive counseling, and legal advocacy. Secondly, Domestic Harmony serves as an extension of public safety. The city police provide safety for crime, fire department helps with fires, and we know how to provide safety for those, but how can we provide safety for those that are being assaulted within their families? That is much more difficult, and personal protection orders and arrests can help with that, but if somebody's arrested, goes to jail, they can bond out, and the risk of safety is a concern again. Many times we serve as a resource for law enforcement, a place that they can take victims to be safe. Just 3 weeks ago, we had 3 different police officers in 1 week bring victims to the door, 2 of them being from the City of Hillsdale, city officers from Hillsdale. Domestic Harmony is a 501c3 in good standing. Our funding comes from various sources, receive local grants and service contracts, local fundraising, including our annual appeal and Duck Derby. And we receive federal and state funding due to the Federal Violence Against Women Act. In order to continue the work that we have done in the past 45 years, I'm asking you to vote in favor of a contract of $6,000 or more. You've been a supporter of this contract for many years, and we would love your support in providing safety and advocacy for those in Hillsdale County victimized by domestic violence. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Flynn.
Do any of the others, since you're a Hillsdale County entity, do any of the other municipalities, Jonesville, Litchfield, Pittsford, Walden, do they give as well?
Yes. We receive from, I I think there's 15 municipalities total, and I think we received from 13 of them.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Stuchel.
Yes, show compassion this council has. I mean, we're not shy about raising our hanger rates or dock slips or parking fees. I think we should take this to up another $1,500 to $7,500 is our contract.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I would second.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Stuchel, seconded by Councilman Wolfram, to raise the contribution from $6,000 to $7,500. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilman Zahn.
Could you remind me what the law that you cited was?
It's House Bill 4563. Maybe the attorney would have better language than I do.
So actually, that statute relates only to townships. It's an authorization for townships. It doesn't apply to cities. There is, however, a provision in the Home Rule City Act that allows a city to make, which is one of the mandatory charters. It allows a city to make expenditures to any private or public organization for the purpose of providing services that the city council deems are necessary for the public health, safety, and welfare. So that's the authorization that allows you to make that type of expenditure if it's a contract for services.
What was that act again, Count?
The Home Rule Cities Act. I think it's actually section 3 and it might be J if I remember right. Of the Home Rule Cities Act.
When I reached out to their state representative in their office, they also, their policy advisor was MLC 41110C. And they quoted in the Associated Builders and Contractors versus the City of Lansing, in their Michigan Supreme Court determined what he's speaking of.
I've supported this. I think it's worthy
Yeah, my main concern right now is we have possibly multiple institutions, and this is of course domestic violence focused, but you know, we're gonna have a transitional shelter in, well, prospectively on Carlton Road. We have the Share the Warmth facility. So I'm wondering if we are gonna do this thing, if we at least need a more formal procedure of determining who gets the funds. Councilman Bentley?
Yes, I was gonna ask that along those lines. What other NGOs do we as a council allocate monies to? Is it not Share the Warmth, or do we, anything else?
No.
So this is the only one? Thank you.
Councilman Morrissey?
We've supported it ever since I've been on the council, which is 9 years now. And it is a law, it is an adjunct to law enforcement essentially. And so I support it. I agree with Councilman Gregg's motion.
Yeah. Anything else? Okay, first we have a motion and a second to raise it from 6,000 to 7,500. Roll call vote?
All right, Councilperson Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
No.
Bentley,
No.
Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
and Soha.
Yes.
We got 5-3, it's approved.
Thank you, Katie. And now we need a motion, unless there is any further discussion, to approve the contract for 7,500 for domestic harmony.
So moved.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Stuchel, to approve the contract for $7,500 for domestic harmony. Katie, could I have a roll call vote?
Yes, Councilperson Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino,
No.
Councilperson Bentley,
No.
Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
and Stuchel.
Yes.
5-3, that's approved.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, letter, this is D now technically, I think, right?
No, C.
Library carpet replacement.
And C.
Oh, you're right, okay. Thank you, Bob.
No problem.
Okay, yes, and Rebecca's back. Thank you for waiting a few hours for us, appreciate it.
That's okay. So yeah, as I've mentioned before, the library is getting new carpet in 3 of our rooms, meeting rooms, as well as both the children's picture book rooms and the children's junior, where the chapter books are. Each of the rooms show pretty expensive, disgusting wear and tear. Honestly, there hasn't been a year that I've been here that there hasn't and won't be an election, which just brings in a lot of extra traffic as well, in addition to our meeting, or to our programs and just library traffic. So anyways, I think I kind of mentioned this before. For the current fiscal year, we have allocated $25,000 for capital outlay projects, which was originally a door project that DPS has quoted us for at one point, and the carpets. As I mentioned last week, we kind of changed some things around so that way we could allocate all of our library fund money into just the carpets, just because, as you can see, the bids were pretty much all exceeding our $25,000 budget that we had set. So basically, after sending it out to bid, I received 3 total bids. There were a few other companies that expressed interest, but Willowbrook was the only one that I intentionally reached out to after they finished work here. Last fall, I think, is when they were doing it. But essentially, I would just say, all things considered, just between after the library's last board meeting in April, and then kind of looking into the projects and the testimonials that they've all done, as well as the price and just the feeling of like communicating with all of them. I myself personally would suggest that Sealy Group would be the selection that you guys award to. They just felt they're based out of Lansing, so this is going to sound odd, but they just had a very, personable sort of customer service, which I really appreciate, which again, also they're under budget, so I'm also favorable to that as well. So that is my suggestion.
Thank you very much. Councilman Morrissey.
Yeah, I support this because I think the library really has a very nice space altogether. I enjoy occasionally going there and using it. It's just a very nice place. It should be maintained properly, and this is a reasonable price.
Thank you, Councilman Morrissey. Councilman Flynn.
I know you're working with budget constraints, but was any thought given to not doing carpet but putting in tile or some sort of hardwood type flooring that doesn't wear out as much? My thinking being, especially in the youth literature rooms, I mean, you spill Kool-Aid on a carpet, you say a few words, you spill Kool-Aid on a hardwood floor, you just wipe it up and move on, you don't have any problems then with having to bring in extra cleaners and stuff. Did you give any thought to any?
So originally it was thought to do like vinyl flooring or the plank flooring in our meeting rooms for that particular reason, because technically based on our rules, food isn't allowed in those other rooms. I'm not going to say that doesn't happen. We occasionally have visitations that occur where like they have to have food involved with them.
Okay, so change food to finger paint.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I don't want to have any of that either. So it was considered for the meeting rooms originally just because ideally that would be the only place that finger paints or food or all of that stuff would be having issue. I think the problem that ended up being discussed, which never actually went to board, it was just kind of discussed amongst us at the library because, I mean, we're the ones there every day using it, right? But anyways, basically, yeah, and this is gonna sound so cliche, but it's a library, and so like, it actually doesn't have as good of like sound soundproof to it, which, you know, we're not necessarily a quiet library, but I mean, anything that we can mitigate, we would prefer. And I will say, my mother also works in a library, and they just they just painted and did their floors, and it went to vinyl plank flooring. And I will say, when they moved all of their bookshelves back, all of their floors got scratched. So yeah, I'm a little partial to not doing that. Granted, we're not necessarily doing that same sort of work in the youth sections. Now, if you were to do it in the adult area, then that would be more of a concern, but that was my only partial to not doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The two other things there would be, one, they're carpet squares.
Yes.
So I think you or DPS or someone can come in and change them if there is
Yeah.
a spill in the tens of dollars probably.
Yeah.
The other thing is they're toddlers. Maybe we could consider that for other rooms, but there's some babies on their knees in that room.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too, I think a lot of the current stains are ones that have been like permeated and they just took too long to have action taken on them. And I know that, I think the director before me paid, like they paid to clean, like a deep clean of the meeting rooms. And as I understand it, for the first week, it looks great. And then by the time everything kind of goes back, it's like, oh, there are all 40 of those back again. And going off of what Josh had said, I did also want to say that the Sealy Group's total price, the $22,000, that includes like all 3 rooms, the vinyl cove that goes around the baseboard, as well as, they didn't really tell me a final number, but like the extra number of carpet tiles that come with it. So like that's including extras for them to say, there's Kool-Aid, like swap it out right now. So I was very happy to get that sort of clarification from them too.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Councilman Soha.
Thank you for this. When was the last time, do you know, that the carpet has been addressed, if ever?
I don't think, ever since it moved over to the new building, I think what's been there is what's there. I would say, I would have to imagine probably, yeah, I don't know.
It's original.
Yeah, I was gonna say, based on like back in our maintenance closet, like we have some, not the carpet tiles, but we have like another roll of carpeting that's like clearly from when it was moved over to the new building. So yeah, that's also what I would have said, so. Yes.
Remind me, when was the new?
2001?
It was between, from start to finish, it was like 2000 and they opened in 2004, so.
Oh, was it that late?
Yeah, it was, it's definitely over 20 years at this point, I would say, yeah.
Councilman Morrissey?
Yeah, that's my recollection. I've been here since 2000 in the town. I don't recall that it ever changed in that time.
Yeah, I have to imagine whatever was originally decided when they were doing all the aesthetics and whatever choosing, that's been it, no discussion since. So yeah, I'm really excited about not looking at the stains anymore.
Thank you.
Yep.
So moved.
Okay. Motion on the floor to give the bid to Sealy Group in the amount of $22,360 from Councilman Morrissey, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, Katie. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Yes.
Councilman Bentley.
Yes.
Bruns.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Morrissey.
Yes.
Soha.
Yes.
Stuchel.
Yes.
And Wolfram.
Yes.
8-0, that's approved.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca has a lot of money to manage, but she has not been trying to spend it all. She's picking the right projects. I appreciate that. Okay, now we are on to letter D, investment report as of 3/31/2025. Okay, Manager Mackey?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Actually, this item probably should have been in the consent agenda because there's no real action to be taken on it. This is just to provide council with an update of the amount of funds that we have invested through our requirements of Public Act 20 with Meager Associates, which you just recently agreed to re-up their contract. With that being said, we have both short-term and long-term, about $12 million in Michigan class, which is typically safe investment vehicles like bonds and those type things. And you can actually see it in the reports how it's broken out. It is layered in there so that as rates change and we have something come off that might be at a lower rate, we can either renew it or use that cash for immediate needs. Renew it at a higher rate, or it depends, that could be the opposite effect as well. But with those reports demonstrate how those monies are invested.
Thank you. My question here again, similar to the budget meetings, was maybe I'm not reading it correctly, but finding the breakdown of BPU versus general funds investments.
It's not in this particular.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be a finance report.
Okay, I'm assuming the vast majority is BPU funds.
That is correct.
Okay, any comments or questions on the investment report? Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved. Support.
Was that Councilman Stuchel motion to accept the investment report and Councilman Soba seconded it? Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will move on to miscellaneous reports. Proclamation for Arbor Day. This looks like it's backdated. Whereas in 1870, do you want me to read this? Okay. There's a proclamation for Arbor Day. I, Joshua Palladino, Mayor of the City of Hillsdale, hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Hillsdale, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And now we will move on to our appointments. Dr. DeBrogi for the Board of Public Utilities, and he said he was going to be here. He didn't make it though. Okay. Any questions on this appointment?
I just want to add, I know Doug pretty well, man of high integrity, good man.
Yeah, yeah, he's fantastic.
He is.
Councilman Marcy.
On this matter of fluoridation, my impression is that his position is not to eliminate fluoride from the drinking water, but rather to see to it that it's at a certain level. There's a certain level that it becomes injurious to pregnancies and so on. And that's my impression of what his actual opinion is. I may be wrong about that. I wish he was here to confirm or deny that. But that is my impression, that he does not advocate the total removal of fluoride from our drinking water.
That's correct. As far, yeah, I've spent several hours discussing not just this topic, but many with him, and he's talks like a PhD in chemistry would talk. You know, he's following the advancements and, of course, monitoring what the Department of Health and Human Services is doing. Where they're updating all the research on that right now as we speak. Yes, Councilman Flynn.
Do we have an opening on the BPU board?
Yes, just the term ended in, I think, the beginning of this month, correct? Yes.
Okay, so the person didn't want to run again, or?
We had four members who were not out, who lived outside the city limits, and the breakdown of our actual users is more like the opposite. Is that right? About 80% city, 20% out of city. So we wanted to work, well, at least I did, and the previous council agreed, we wanted to work to make it 4 city representatives and 1 out of city.
Okay, so we just, whoever's being replaced didn't have the option to stay on? Or?
They didn't live in the city.
Okay, so we just said, you're out.
I don't know what the discussions were like.
Oh,
did they
yeah,
apply to renew? I didn't receive an application.
Oh, okay.
I don't think, did I?
They did apply,
Oh, they did.
but they were told up front that through the previous council discussions and Mayor Pro Tem Palladino's concept, they wanted to get more
Morrissey?
Yeah, Wildlife Drive is in the city. It doesn't have any street from the city connecting to it, but there's a swampy area, a marsh area that connects it territorially
It just doesn't, I mean,
to the city of Hillsdale, so it's part of the city. In my ward, so I happen to be quite fond of Wildlife Drive.
I wasn't sure where you lived because on my form it's all blacked out, so I wasn't sure where you.
It was on Hillsdale Street.
Okay.
Yes, and he's building a new home on Wildlife Drive. Solving the housing crisis, one home at a time. Okay, anything else on this? Yes, Councilman Soha.
Not to disparage the CDC or the NIH, but a simple Google search on countries banning fluoride will pull up a plethora of examples in Europe alone: Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, most of it, and most of the United Kingdom. New Zealand has regions that ban the Netherlands, which was previously fluoridated, as was Germany, who have banned it, as well as Japan and some other countries. So there is not a general consensus worldwide that fluoride is in the best interest of the water treatment. I just wanted to let that be known.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Yes, I just wanted to distance Dr. DeBrogi from the idea that he is a political activist or something. He is a chemist, considering these things very, very seriously.
And my point, forgive the interruption.
Yeah, no, please.
My point is just that there's debate right
Yes,
now about
yes.
its efficacy.
Yes, that's right. And HHS will most likely direct municipalities to remove it in the coming months, and then we will have a new discussion. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Support.
Motion on the floor to appoint Douglas DeBrogi to the Board of Public Utilities, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, Katie?
Alright, Councilperson Bentley,
Yes.
Franz,
Yes.
Flynn,
No.
Morrissey,
Yes.
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Palladino.
Yes.
That is 7 approved.
Thank you very much, Katie.
While we're on appointments, I just have a question.
Yes.
I was told that John Novak has applied for the airport board.
Okay.
I don't know if there's an opening or not, but
I will check right
I don't know.
now.
I was just told he applied and nothing came of it.
I believe there's 2 openings on the library board every
No,
other, excuse me, airport board every other.
I don't think there's one currently, but I do have an application.
Oh, yes, okay.
December 2025, there will be 3 openings and 4 in December 2026, so that will not be my problem. Well, I guess it will be on council, but that will be another mayor to make that appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, on appointments, library board, Karen Hill stepped down, so there is a very interim role. I believe it expires in November, so the appointment would be for about 6 months. Rebecca has asked that we find someone with strategic planning and finance background, because we have 2 people with masters in library science on the board. Basically everyone has an education background. So I've talked to 2 people about that. They're sort of hesitant. So if you have that background in particular for the library board, please submit an application. And what was the other thing I wanted to mention?
I think there's a board of review alternate.
Still the board of review alternate position, and 2 for the Dial-A-Ride Advisory Committee, and those need to be users or people who are senior citizens or disabled, correct?
Yeah.
And then 2 alternates on the International Property Maintenance Code Appeals Board, and they meet very infrequently. So submit your applications, help out the city. Thank you very much. Okay, anything else on appointments, boards, commissions? Very good. We'll move on to general public comment. The podium is open. You have 3 minutes to speak on anything you would like.
Melissa Jardin, Ward 3, to answer a solution for the littering that is on the Ball Beach trails. I have seen on the internet that other cities have actually installed, what are those cameras called? I went up here with the solution and now I'm all flustered.
Trail cams?
Trail cams, thank you. With trail cams, they put them up high enough that obviously the city that installs them, they would need a ladder in order to access them, but then also it helps deter people from messing with them. It also, they use them as public safety, but it also, they get to use them as watching people come in, or they would just be able to maintain a little bit of safety if you want to see who's using the trails and when they're using them, and if somebody's coming in with backpacks and a tent, you would be able to see what's going on. From what I understand, the cost of operating those real time can be on a phone. It'll send you a signal when someone walks by. But I've seen cities use them, and it has worked really well with public safety and littering, and it actually catches some really cool things out in the wilderness. I don't know about you guys, but I have a Ring camera, and I can't tell you how many times a mom, and then she always has 2 babies, and they walk down Rhea Street at night, and literally just right down the street, so my Ring camera always catches it. So then the things that you could share with the community of the wilderness that is on the Ball Beach trails. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Nichols again, Adams Township. I want to commend council for the spirit of cooperation and compassion that you dealt with the issue with regarding Camp Oak tonight.
Thank you.
Going along with Mark there, been coming to these things for about a decade now, and I have never witnessed that level of civil discussion on this board. I don't know, you've taken a lot of hate, Josh, a lot, but what you've been doing here, definitely starting to show, and it's a shame that you're not running for mayor again, for continuing.
Thank you. Any further public comment? I will close the podium. We will move on to the city manager's report, which we have a copy of now.
Yes.
Advancements.
Yes. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Some of the things that you had mentioned earlier, I'm going to start doing this for each of the council meetings moving forward. Actually putting a written report together, as well as pointing out things that might come up after the report is prepared. But as was said earlier, the Monroe Street reconstruction project began today. The barricades are up. We have put out notices on the app, and as well as have put it out on the radio that there will be issues for the next couple months dealing with the BPU and payments of your bills. So you can come down Manning Street, but once they get in full swing, we will not be able to use Monroe. If there are any questions on that, just please give us a call. And as Jason said, as we get the bricks out and get them moved, if you call his office, we are keeping a list, and he does have quite a number on the list right now, and you will be welcome to take some bricks for that history. As the mayor said, August 5th will be the mayoral primary election, and we do have 4 candidates in that. The groundbreaking for Green Meadows North will be next Thursday, the 15th, which will be a nice housing project that's moving forward there. At Parish, who is one of our local county contractors, has been doing the work on that, as well as the BPU will be doing some on the electric side and others. So that is moving forward currently, but we will be having that groundbreaking on May 15th. We highlighted the community partnership here with the Hillsdale Exchange Club and the Waterworks Park. We do work with most all of our local community organizations, and they do step up, all of them, Rotary, Exchange, Kiwanis, to do really good things for the community. So just we're going to highlight those things as next item was Domestic Harmony, which council approved their contract for. The staff did, here on April 30th, did their Denim Day fundraiser to raise monies that were then donated to Domestic Harmony. So we've been doing that, I think, since I've been here, almost 10 years now, and participating in that. And then also, the Hillsdale Board of Public Utilities received national recognition for outstanding commitment to workplace safety, particularly as it relates to the electric power, but also with water and sewer. So that award reflects the BPU's team's strong safety culture and dedication to protecting both the employees and the communities we serve. And then just wanted to point out some employee recognition. We have Brandon Johns. He's just celebrated 10 years with the Board of Public Utilities. David Eklund, 15 years with the Fire Department. I'm assuming he's part paid. And Michelle Lauren, who's been with Parks and Rec and been with the city for 20 years. So just want to thank them for their service to the community. Lastly, I'm just going to mention that the Tifa and the Dawn Theater actually have a RFP out on soliciting an operator to operate the Dawn Theater, and they have until submission deadline of 3 p.m. on Monday, May 19th. Both email and physical submissions are accepted, but you know, we do have that out in public forums, and are hoping to get some qualified applicants for that. The deadline is May 19th at 3 p.m. And if there are any questions, they can feel free to contact the city clerk or my office, and we'll get them in contact with the appropriate staff. So that's all I have, unless there are any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon, David, and Michelle. Anything from council? Were you able to look into how we got this park?
Which part?
The Stocks Mill property.
No, I have not got to that yet, but I do have one other item that I want to mention to council.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll have that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to let council know that we finally received the notice that the college has made their filing with the court in regards to the vacation of the street for the hotel project, so that is in process. It was just a very detailed application process that was now submitted, and we've received our official copy of that, so.
Okay.
Do they have a general breakdown date for that?
I have not heard an official date, but I think they are targeting 2027, 2026. I know we're working on all aspects with utility movements and such to try to get them, to breaking ground. Hopefully in 2026, but that's as close as I got.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Morrissey.
Just to follow up on the comment from the podium, perhaps we could refer to that trail cam business to the Public Safety Committee?
Yes. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Support.
Motion on the floor from Councilman Morrissey to send the trail cam discussion to public safety, seconded by Councilman Soha. Any further discussion? Councilman Bentley, you're wavering.
I would not like to live in more of a panopticon than we already do. So maybe I'll sit in on that meeting, but I don't think we need any more cams. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
Jason,
If I could.
please.
So we do have 5 cameras that we already use in-house. We strategically kind of put them up when we get an area that is working over. We use them over Logan Street quite a few times and so forth. So we already have them. They don't deter a lot. We've actually got more of our residents that are housed in there doing things than we have our
was the one at Sandy Beach, but Kiku's too.
Kiku's, yep, down there because we have that section from Logan Street over to Superior. That gets quite a bit of use as well. But yeah, we do use them in our arsenals already.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you wanna still discuss it?
It's worth the discussion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, roll call vote.
Okay. Councilperson Bentley,
No.
Bruns,
No.
Flynn,
Yes.
Morrissey,
Yes?
Soha,
Yes.
Stuchel,
Yes.
Wolfram,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, how do you know?
No.
Did I get everybody?
Yes.
Okay, it's 5-3, it's approved, guys.
Thank you, Katie. Okay, you have 2 items on your agenda, and we have followed regular procedure, and we are moving on to any other questions or comments for the city manager. Okay, now we're moving on to council comment. Any council comments? Yes, Councilman Soha.
I just had a question about, Councilman Bruns. Why no vote on the 36-381 or 681? You didn't mention anything, or I missed it if you did, while we were discussing it.
I didn't see anything, no. I don't feel strongly about it, but I oppose fence permits, so, yeah.
So just for the future, I appreciate fuller understanding of why somebody, because it might persuade me. I've been persuaded in the past.
Thank you, Councilman Soha. Thank you, Councilman Bruns. Anything else? The only thing I have, I will not be here on the May 19th, for the May 19th meeting, unfortunately. We don't have a provision for who calls the meeting to order, except that you elect the acting mayor as the first order of business, I assume. But the process isn't spelled out, so I don't know if, do we want to elect an acting mayor for the May 19th meeting now? Is that permissible? Who calls the meeting to order?
How long are you gonna be gone? 'Cause I don't know if we could reschedule, but.
I'm just gone for the day. Yeah, work trip.
I believe the clerk calls the meeting to order.
The clerk does. Is that in the charter and the rules of procedure?
I can't remember which, but I think that's.
Couldn't find that. Okay.
And that's typically what you would do when you would have the clerk do that.
Okay.
It just needs someone to call the meeting to order.
Right, yeah.
And then it was the presiding officer.
You would entertain a motion to appoint someone to be the acting mayor for purposes of, that.
Yeah.
Just for that one meeting.
After the meeting is called to order.
Yeah.
Katie would call the meeting to order, and
Yeah.
our first order of business would be to appoint somebody to run that night's meeting.
Okay.
He can't run a meeting.
Right.
You call it to order, and then you would vote on someone to be the person who will run the meeting.
So can you add that to the top of the agenda? I don't know if that needs to be its own item. Okay.
I guess I have a follow-up question though. What would be the procedure for rescheduling the meeting?
Motion?
Like, is it that easy?
Yeah.
You could make a motion tonight to reschedule the meeting if you wanted to, I suppose.
I move to reschedule the meeting the following day on Tuesday.
Actually, I might not be back until Wednesday. My flight comes in Tuesday morning. Or Tuesday evening, sorry. I could do Wednesday.
I move that we postpone the Wednesday. Yeah. I withdraw the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Thank you for, I would love to be here. I appreciate that.
I make a motion that we adjourn. Second.
Motion on the floor to adjourn from Councilman Flynn, seconded by Councilman Stuchel. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the meeting is adjourned.